Trump just rejected the best deal Iran has offered in 2 months. The Secretary of State said so publicly. Iran has 12 days before its economy starts breaking apart. And the gap right now is not between America and Iran. It's between two men sitting in the same building, reading the same document, and reaching completely opposite conclusions. Here is everything you need to know before this explodes. 60 days ago, on February 28th, the United States went to war. The stated reason was Iran's nuclear program. Trump called it the casus belli, 99% of the reason. Vance flew to Islamabad and came home empty-handed. Now, on day 60, Iran has submitted a new proposal. It was delivered through Pakistan. It was shaped by Foreign Minister Araghchi's weekend tour through Islamabad, Muscat, and St. Petersburg. It carries a message from Iran's new supreme leader, a man who has not been seen publicly since he was named. And that message was sent not to Trump, not to Rubio, but to Vladimir Putin. That detail alone should stop you. If this is the first time you are hearing it, share this now before the next development drops, because the next 24 hours may be the most consequential of this entire war. Iran's proposal does three things. It offers to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. It offers to return to pre-war conditions. It offers to halt hostilities. And it asks for one thing in return: end the blockade, stop the war, and address the nuclear program later, in a separate negotiation on a separate timeline. That is the deal on the table this morning. And Marco Rubio, the United States Secretary of State, went on Fox News and said it out loud. The new Iranian proposal is better than what we thought they were going to submit. Better than expected. Those are his words. CNN sources say Trump is unlikely to accept it. That is the contradiction that defines this morning. The same proposal, the same document. Rubio says better than expected. Trump appears ready to walk away. The war is not stuck between Washington and Tehran. It is stuck between two floors of the same building in Washington. To understand why, you need the specific logic of both positions, because neither one is irrational. Rubio's calculation is economic. Opening Hormuz drops oil prices. Goldman Sachs has fourth quarter oil at $90 in the optimistic scenario. Gas is at $4.11 per gallon. The European Union is spending $587 million extra per day on energy. UK Prime Minister Starmer warned Trump personally on Sunday of severe consequences on the global economy. Trump's domestic approval is sitting at 35%. The midterms are in November. From Rubio's perspective, a deal that opens Hormuz solves every problem that is actually damaging Trump's political standing. Trump's calculation is strategic. He has publicly committed that any deal must require Iran to forfeit its near bomb-grade uranium stockpile and surrender its enrichment infrastructure. Iran has steadfastly refused both. A deal that opens Hormuz and defers nuclear discussions means 60 days of war, 13 American deaths, 3,400 Iranian deaths, and the most intensive American air campaign since 2003 produced exactly one result. Hormuz reopens. The nuclear program stays. The breakout capability, the ability to produce weapons-grade material in weeks, stays. From Trump's perspective, that is not victory. That is the same Iran that existed before February 28th, minus some military hardware, with Hormuz open and the bomb clock still ticking. Drop your answer in the comments right now. Should Trump accept the staged deal or hold the line on nuclear? Read the analysis below before you decide, because what happens in the next 12 days changes everything. Here is the number that no major American newspaper put on its front page this morning, and it is the most important number in this war. Research firm Kepler published Monday that Iran is rapidly running out of places to store crude oil. The blockade has intercepted 38 ships and turned away dozens more. Iran's oil cannot be exported. It is filling storage tanks. Iran has enough unused storage capacity to last another 12 to 22 days. After that, Iran is forced to cut daily oil output by another 1.5 million barrels. Iran has already curtailed 2.5 million barrels of daily production. When those tanks are full, the revenue that funds the IRGC, the government, food subsidies, and the weapons program begins to collapse. Iran's year-on-year inflation in March and April hit 50.6%. Property transactions in Tehran dropped nearly to zero during the war. Citizens shifted capital into gold. Iran's economy is not managing the blockade. It is hemorrhaging. Iran's new proposal is not Iranian generosity. It is Iranian necessity. The 12 to 22 days of storage capacity is a countdown clock, not a negotiating margin. Iran submitted this proposal because it had to. Russia understands that, and Russia is using it. On the same day Iran submitted its proposal, on the same day Araghchi met Putin in St. Petersburg, Russia's UN ambassador, Vasily Nebenzia, stood before the Security Council and said Iran has every right to limit traffic in the Strait of Hormuz. He said there was an attempt to pin full responsibility on Iran as if it was Iran which attacked its neighbors. In times of war, a coastal state under attack may limit navigation in its territorial waters for the purpose of security. Russia is not a bystander in this war. Russia is Iran's legal advocate at the United Nations, Iran's strategic briefer in St. Petersburg, and the country whose uranium custody offer Trump rejected 3 weeks ago. Russia provided intelligence on American troop positions throughout the war. China shipped rocket fuel precursors on sanctioned tankers. The Iran war was supposed to solve the Iran nuclear problem. 60 days later, it has produced a Russia-China-Iran axis, operating with increasing coordination against American interests across multiple theaters simultaneously. Lebanon adds a dimension that the diplomatic coverage has not adequately absorbed. At least 259 people have been killed by Israeli strikes in Lebanon since March 2nd. More than 7,750 have been wounded. A CNN review of satellite imagery shows hundreds of buildings, most of them homes, either completely flattened or rendered uninhabitable in southern Lebanon. Satellite imagery taken after the April 16th ceasefire announcement shows demolitions continuing, excavators and armored vehicles clearly visible, flattening structures during the 3-week ceasefire extension that Trump announced with Netanyahu and Lebanese President Aoun. At least 40 people have been killed after the ceasefire that was supposed to stop the killing. Iran's insistence that Lebanon must be included in any final deal is not an abstract demand. It is a response to 259 deaths and hundreds of demolished homes in a country Iran considers a non-negotiable red line. The staged process, Hormuz first, nuclear later, does not address Lebanon at all. A deal that Iran's foreign minister signs and Iran's IRGC rejects is not a deal. It is a pause before the next escalation. Iran's new supreme leader, the man who replaced Ali Khamenei after February 28th, the man whose existence Trump questioned by posting that Iran has no idea who its leader is, has sent a private message to Vladimir Putin, not to Trump, not through Pakistan, to Putin. The diplomatic channel between Iran's invisible supreme leader and the Russian president is the channel that Iran is using to communicate what its public diplomacy cannot say. And that channel is open and active this morning, while Trump's national security team reviews a proposal Trump appears unlikely to accept. The question the next 24 hours will answer is not whether Iran's proposal is better than expected. Rubio already confirmed it is. The question is whether Trump accepts a staged process that delivers Iran economic relief immediately while deferring the nuclear question that started this war. The economic pressure to accept is documented in 12 to 22 days of Iranian storage capacity, $4.11 gas, Goldman Sachs' $90 fourth quarter oil forecast, Starmer's urgent warning, and the EU's $24 billion extra energy bill. The strategic pressure to reject is documented in Trump's own public commitment that Iran cannot have nuclear weapons, in 13 American deaths that must be justified with something more than a reopened waterway, and in the Israeli defense minister's statement that Israel is waiting for a green light to return Iran to the Stone Age. Between Rubio's better than expected and Trump's unlikely to accept, between Iran's 12 to 22 days of storage and America's November midterms, between an invisible supreme leader messaging Putin and a national security team reviewing a document in Washington, the proposal sits. The 60-day war with no end date, no timeline, and no agreed framework waits for one man's answer. Before that answer comes, share this. The moment Trump responds, it becomes the most consequential statement of this entire war. We track every verified number, every confirmed source, every real development, updated daily, not weekly, because in this war, 24 hours changes everything. Drop your answers below. Every comment is read. The strongest analysis gets featured. If you are watching this and you do not want to miss what happens next, subscribe, not because we asked, but because tomorrow's update will matter more than today's. 3 questions before you go. Iran submitted a proposal Rubio called better than expected. It opens Hormuz. It defers nuclear discussions. Trump appears unlikely to accept because the nuclear question, the casus belli, the 99%, remains unresolved. Iran has 12 to 22 days of oil storage remaining. Inflation is at 50.6%. Goldman Sachs holds fourth quarter oil at $90 in the optimistic scenario. Trump's midterms are in November. If the economic pressure on both sides makes the staged process the only realistic path to any agreement, and Trump rejects it because nuclear is deferred, what is the specific alternative mechanism by which the nuclear question gets resolved before Hormuz opens? And has that mechanism produced any result in 60 days that it has not already produced? Russia's UN ambassador said Monday that Iran has every right to limit Hormuz traffic. Putin received a private message from Iran's invisible supreme leader. Russia's uranium custody offer was rejected by Trump. Russia provided intelligence on American troop positions. China shipped rocket fuel precursors on sanctioned tankers. The war was supposed to solve the nuclear problem. 60 days later, it has created a Russia-China-Iran axis with increasing coordination against American interests. If the staged process produces Hormuz's reopening and nuclear deferral, what specific mechanism prevents Iran from using economic recovery to reconstitute its nuclear program? And why would that mechanism succeed when the 2015 nuclear deal's equivalent mechanisms did not? Iran's oil storage has 12 to 22 days of capacity. After that, production cuts of 1.5 million barrels per day are forced by mid-May. Inflation is at 50.6%. The IRGC called Hormuz control the definitive strategy. Iran's invisible supreme leader messaged Putin, not Trump. Iran submitted a proposal through Pakistan that Rubio called better than expected. Trump appears unlikely to accept. If Iran's storage fills before Trump accepts a proposal and Iran is forced to cut production while maintaining IRGC Hormuz operations, does that economic pressure accelerate Iranian flexibility on nuclear terms? Or does it accelerate domestic pressure toward IRGC hardliners who want resumed combat rather than a deal that leaves nuclear discussions open?